Welcome to the Light and Dark podcast. I'm your host, Sam Renfro. In this podcast, we'll explore what it means to be fully human, embracing all aspects of the human experience, the light and the dark. We'll discuss all things health and wellness, spirituality, and everything in between. And I'll share all of the impactful tools and lessons that I've learned on this planet so far. The light is within you. Can you feel it? Okay, welcome back to the Light and Dark podcast. My name is Sam, and today we have another amazing episode. And I always say that I'm excited, but I'm truly excited for each one because one of the first things that I would say happened to me or happened for me along my spiritual journey was crystals. They kind of just came into my life, and actually a good friend of mine gifted me a crystal, and somehow, some way, all these people came into my life with these different energies and kind of invited this sense of this is a tool that can help you and it's something that you can work with. And so before I go too deep, I would love to introduce you to my dear friend Janna Bowman. She is, I don't love this word, but she's a crystal guru. She knows more about crystals than anyone that I have ever met, and she really talks about them and teaches about them in a way that I've never heard before up until this point. Janna and I met at a crystal grid sound bath at a local studio here in Santa Cruz, and I feel like it was just a friendship that was blossoming ever since. So Janna, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. And I would say that word guru, I feel like it's an old paradigm. And I feel like the way that I like to share what I've learned through my journey with crystals and my beginnings with crystals is one, that everybody is just a beginner, um, and also that we're here to have an experience with them. So I can't tell you what your experience is going to be, but along the journey, teaching, learning from some really amazing women, I have some knowledge to share.
Yeah, and you can feel that right away. I mean, just from the moment that we met, it was like, oh, this is different. This is somebody who really has deeply learned and studied, but also embodied their connection to the crystals in a way that, like I said, I hadn't come across. And at the same time, I instantly knew that it was like the beginner's mind came in right away, where I was like, I have to almost forget most things that I've heard and known about crystals because there's way more going on here than I could have imagined when that was within a 5-minute conversation of me. And it's so funny. I mention the story of like I went to a crystal grid sound bath, and I for some reason just assumed that it was like working with the crystal grid of the earth. A lot of people talk about the crystalline grid, but we were actually gridding ourselves, which was such a cool concept. Can you share a little bit about what crystal gridding is?
Yeah, so I'll start with how it came to be. So I had been doing sound healing with, I had done some festivals and had learned, had been doing sound healing since 2016 in my practice, but hadn't been doing groups, and was invited to do a few festivals, and I learned a great deal from these amazing musicians. And I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to step into doing groups. And I had already finished my 2-year program, and the crystal grid and the crystal grid sound healing that you attended, that's a cleansing auric grid that I learned. It's a hexagonal grid that I learned, and it's really actually very I don't want to say plain because it's very dynamic, but it's not really what I do in crystal resonance therapy. But I was I made a crystal grid blanket. So I took leather and I started binding the quartz and the tourmaline to a blanket, and I would take it with me to all the markets, and I would just set up my table, and people were like, it's free, and I'm like, yeah, just hop on, and I would instruct them on how to amplify their heart, their electromagnetic frequency, and the grid would just get into oscillation for them. And what would happen is I would ask them if I could record their biofeedback. So over years of doing that, in combination of ready to step into group, the crystal grid sound healing was birthed through that. And I had this intuition, and I don't know why, but of course, everything's always after I get out of meditation, to get a lot of quartz crystals. So I had this, all of these quartz crystals, and then acquired the tourmaline and started building kits. And so I was like, okay, so that's how that started. But the grids essentially are SiO2, a quartz, and black tourmaline, which is diamagnetic. So when we get into a coherent state, using our mind and our hearts, then it puts the crystals into oscillation. And so this action happens around your biofield, around your technology. So I always like to say that our bodies are ancient technology, but the grids are also ancient technology. So so that's how they work with our bodies. And there's lots of different types of gridding, but that's just the main one of the types of grids that I do in group. We can get into the large scale grids, which is a whole nother rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's crazy because I just, for some reason I thought this is like something that you trained in. You like went to this person that showed you how to do crystal grids, and then all of a sudden it was like you were doing it. But it just, I love how every time that I talk to you, it's like, no, this just organic thing happened out of nowhere. I kind of just did it and saw what happened. And a leather blanket at a festival, I mean, it's just one of those magical moments where it's like, okay, anything goes, and we're gonna see. And is the leather part of that? Is that like, was that kind of the medium or the conduit for it to happen?
Actually, I just wanted something natural to bind it to so I sewed it, cut into the blanket and sewed and tied the leather. I didn't want anything artificial, like glue or anything like that. And so I started with the crystal grid blanket, and so just, I'm creative. So, and I also am very curious. And so I think it just comes from that place.
What, I would love to go back into the gridding a little bit later, but what really drew you to crystals? Like, what sparked your curiosity to even go down this path in the first place?
So gosh, I don't know where it ever began. I think that I hate to say that I woke up, because we're all conscious beings, but I had a major life, like my whole life turned upside down in my late 20s, and my whole life changed. I was in high tech, and then I got into massage. So I'll say that it probably started then, because I started, when you do massage therapy, like when you train to do it, you're having your body worked on. And when you have that much body work done, things start to awaken. And so just through that, that was, 23, 24 years ago. And through meditation, being attracted to crystals and meditating with crystals. And what happened was I would literally come out of meditation holding a crystal in my hand, and I would feel the channels opening, like it was clearing channels in my hand. So I thought, oh, well, I could probably do this for clients. So I started channeling crystals, and it was I mean, just channeling crystals alone is super profound. Uh, and I was already a heart math mentor, so I think, like, everything that I've trained for and got certificates in is like it all kind of like, I started with Dr. Joe Dispenza 20 years ago before he even did what he's doing now, and everything, like, they're all in cahoots with heart math, and you know just Bruce Lipton, and Greg Braden. I've been following those guys for decades, and they all, like, it was all about the heart. And so I was practicing heart math already, and so I think just the combination of the meditation, the crystal in my hand, and all of that, and what led me down the rabbit hole was this opening that I felt, the channels of energy moving in my hand and then channeling into clients. And then again, it's always about the biofeedback. So it was like the biofeedback I was getting, the communication that I was having through the frequency of the crystal, what the client was saying. I would have a reference book, and I would start, we would read it, and it would be exactly what was coming up for them, and just all of the alignments with that. And that's really how I got that's what started it all. And then I was on a plane, and I had gotten this crystal oracle book, and I didn't have anything to read, and I'm reading the preface, and she's talking about my experience. And that ended up being my teacher, Naisha Ashian. So she changed her name. She's no longer teaching, but she wrote the Book of Stones. And so that's what got me to where I'm at now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were, I'm just so I can understand it, right? You're using the crystals, or working with them, I should say, on your own account, and then you felt your hand and your arm started to kind of open up, and like the channel starting to flow through that, and then you started just doing that, almost that same thing with clients in like a one-on-one, and then it was like does it feel like the crystals kind of communicating through you as a form of what's happening with them, or?
So that's crystal healing, or crystal channeling is very different than crystal resonance therapy, which is what I got my 2-year certification in. And so I started with the crystal channeling or crystal healing, and it's powerful, so powerful. But the communication I was getting was, I'm clairvoyant, I can be clairaudient, but mostly I see pictures and work with the alchemy of the pictures that are being shown. I've been known to be a medium here and there, but it's not something that I say I am.
Yeah.
But it just, if someone really wants to communicate, and we're in that, we're in that space where they can, if they really want to communicate with someone in the room, they're gonna let me know.
Yeah.
So, but it doesn't always happen. It's only a handful of times that's happened. But
yeah, it's like anything goes, right? It's that you let them decide, you let the energies decide, whatever energies are present that wish to work with the client, right? And then kind of go from there. And the crystals are really just like your allies at that point.
Yeah, they are. That's what she calls them, actually. Naisha Ashen calls them crystal allies. Yeah. And I want to just mention that we are crystals. So we are the human crystal. And our bodies, we're crystalline bodies, all our cells, the plasma, but especially our cells, which our DNA runs through. And there's a layer, and Bruce Lipton goes into this in his slides, if you ever see any of his stuff. But he goes into, and that was an aha moment for me, because I took the program called Becoming the Human Crystal, which is actually, you are a human crystal. You're just tapping into it.
Just realizing.
So that was the name of my program. And then when I saw the Bruce, when he went through the actual scientific stuff of like, oh my God, there really is a crystalline structure in the cell. I was like, we really are human crystals. And so we're, so. I could go on and on.
Yeah, I no, I mean, and we will and we should, but when we talk about we are crystals, right? We have the that crystalline energy within us. I'm thinking of like certain crystals hold certain frequencies, right?
Yeah.
And I've been, you can tell me if this is accurate or not, but I've been told certain ones maybe are harder than others because they're more dense and they've been holding energy for a longer time, or some are more malleable where things can pass through them more easily. Is that at all accurate?
You mean the density?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really learn that much about that, but I would say that that's probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm more just thinking about the energy that we emanate,
Yeah.
right? All the time, because if we are crystals, everybody is completely connected and at the same time very unique,
Yeah.
emanating their own frequency. And then crystals are very much the same way.
So that kind of leads us into the mineralogy of things, because there's, that's basically our body's function on minerals. And so when I'm educating, and doing a class for a corporate group, that's kind of how I lead with things, is that like the SiO2 or the silicone is the same silicone that your hair and your nails have, right? The iron in the in a crystal like black tourmaline is the same iron that's in a butterfly, and so it's the unified field, and that's a frequency band, and it's literally what these minerals are, what structure the 3D realm.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's all connected. And there are different flavors and things like that, but we can go into like how somebody is attracted to one versus the other and things like that. And that's, it's just like people, but because we're human crystals, of course we're attracted. Yeah. We have all these filters.
Yeah, I've been diving into the minerals a lot, as we were talking about before this. And my teachers within the fascia, they talk about how your fascia is the densest layer of the energy field, and how we have all of these minerals and everything running through us. And if we're stuck and we're dehydrated and are lacking the minerals, then we're not going to be able to attract all the things that are actually meant for us. Our signal is going to be weak, it's going to be dim, and so we need the minerals within us to be able to do what we naturally do. And as I've been learning more about how minerals play in the body, it's just so interesting. But when we talk about it with crystals, it's more like attuning to the frequencies, like entrainment, or how does that interact between us and the crystals?
Well, I mean, there's a lot to that. So I'll give an example. When I first, I was at a trade show once, and I seldomly drink alcohol now, but I was in my 30s then, and I did then. And I was a little hungover, and I go to this trade show and I'm attracted to all of these stones, and I would say that at that moment, my body was really needing minerals that were going to help with that hangover. So we can talk about it, and that, might be a fascia thing, right?
Yeah.
But when you're talking about like what bands of frequency in terms of crystals that you're attracted to, we can get into the vortexes in our body, the chakras. We can get into that because that's elemental. So
yeah.
And then if you want to take it one step further, as a human crystal, we've got that crystalline structure in our cells, which is connected to our DNA, which is connected to our pre-physical consciousness, or our Akashic records of our soul. So it's so layered.
Yeah.
It's very layered.
And I imagine there might be one or multiple overarching crystals that might be able to help you out in your life versus the ones that maybe you need immediately for your body to optimally function, right?
And that's called prescriptive crystal healing.
I've heard you say that before.
So prescriptive crystal healing, I mean, the other day I had a little anxiety because I work over the hill and there's a lot of energy over there there's a lot of Wi-Fi over there. And a lot of times when I drop in from being in my little, off-grid mountain cabin, dropping in, sometimes I'll feel those waves of energy. So I was using lepidolite because it's rich in lithium. So, and it helps me instantly.
What does lithium do for the body?
Lithium, people who have like depression, anxiety will take lithium as a prescription. So when you're working, it's the same. It's the energy of lithium. So you're basically like giving yourself a little bit of a dose of a prescription, the energy of that lithium mineral.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And it's very calming, right? Like, yeah.
It's a water element also, so water is very calming to some people.
So what's like a typical, like amethyst or citrine, one of the ones that people know about, like what kind of elements would they hold, or minerals?
So quartz and, for instance, quartz and citrine are both mainly SiO2. They're both silicon. So there isn't a lot of mineral content to like those kind of quartz, like smoky quartz. And I mean, smoky quartz has iron in it, but there's not a whole lot of mineral content to those, but there are elementals. So like amethyst is the wind element and citrine is a fire element. Smoky quartz is an earth element. So, but those are all in the quartz family, which is an SiO2.
And does quartz, like a lot of people hear that quartz amplifies everything around it? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's piezoelectric. It's in every device that we own. It's in our cell phones, and all of our tech has quartz in it. So yeah, it's definitely like amplifying, clarifying, programming.
Yeah, programming is an interesting one, right? Because you're like, how are we programming, maybe consciously or unconsciously, right?
Well, and so when I meditate with my channeling stone in my dominant hand, and that programs that frequency of me meditating. So whenever I'm doing something that I want to kind of program, I program my channeling stone in that hand. And so when I went through the coursework with my healing kit, which was, by the way, only like 20 stones, even though I do channel lots and lots of different stones that I have in the office. But when I'm doing this crystal resonance therapy, I have a more of an intimate relationship with this healing kit that I worked with. But I had a quartz crystal that's my channeling stone that I hold while I'm doing the treatment on the clients, because I've programmed all of that information into that quartz.
And do you mean like you're programming your meditative consciousness into it, or are you intentionally in meditation saying, this is what I want to go into the crystal?
No, it's just a frequency. Yeah, it's just a frequency. So a lot of times, like you can program crystals, quartz crystals, like, with really anything you'd like. I have a client who, one of my clients gave him a quartz, and he takes that quartz on every single triathlon that he goes on. And he's not a crystal guy, but we've had conversations. I said, you're programming that crystal, so it's carrying a frequency.
Like when he's in the marathon?
Correct.
Like, I can do it, like
whatever it was that he programmed it with, whatever his energy was.
Interesting.
Yeah,
it's like you're reaching in those times of like you're low energy, or you need to pick me up, or you need, whatever it is, maybe some more focus, right? Then you're going to reach towards the crystals that you've worked with in the past to say, okay, now, like you talked about, prescribing yourself.
Yeah. And I'd also say people stay within their comfort zones too.
Totally.
And that's what crystal resonance therapy is so different than anything that I've learned about. And I mean, even though I've done a lot of training, it's really been for my own healing, as that's how everyone starts out, right? Is for their own healing.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything that I've learned for myself that I'm sharing with people, because I've felt some sort of biofeedback, or it's helped me or it's helped someone else. Um, it, I don't, there's so much more to know. Like, that's the thing, is there's like over 4,000 different minerals on the planet, and there's no way that I could know everything about crystals.
Mm.
So I'm very humble in that sense of like, I'm like, you could teach me something about, you will have your own experience with a crystal that maybe I had a different experience about, and we could talk about it. We could talk about your experience with it versus my experience with that crystal. And again, it goes back to just being this unique crystal yourself as a human. So it's, it's quite, it's very, my teacher was a very, very intelligent woman and very science based. And I'm still studying what I learned, because when I learned it, I finished my program in 2020. I'm still digesting, um, everything that I learned, and there's so much more to learn.
Now, when you talk about like you and I might have a completely different experience with the same crystal, is that because my citrine and your citrine hold different consciousness, or is it because you and I need different things in our lives, or is it kind of all of the above?
Well, we were talking a little bit about our astrological signs.
Mm-hmm.
You're a Gemini, I'm a Sagittarius, but I have a Cancer rising, right? So I'm a fire water polarity. So we take the chart, we look at the chart, we look at the planets and the elementals, and we look at, like, I have one planet in Earth. So you can imagine, like, I've had to be, let's just say that the earth element has been like, and what the earth element is my physical body. It's how I organize things. It's time. It's my ancestry. It's how I make money. So not to say that there aren't other aspects in your astrological chart that are going to affect that also, or different elements that are going to affect those things also. But I've had to work very hard at curating the earth element in my life. I have to work at it. It's a living, standing, breathing practice of mine to stay organized. I'm very organized. But it's taken me like time also to like not lose track of time and be on time, and even in treatments, and all of that. And then we're very patterned in our bodies too. So like, when I started the crystal resonance, or becoming the human crystal, there was 3 segments in the training that I got. One of them was called Primus Healing, and that's there is a meditation on my website that's free, that my teacher donated to the world because of the loss of magnetism on the planet, and she believes that this meditation is going to help our hearts. Getting into that space will help.
Wow.
The planet. So that was her gift to the world, and so I have that on my website if anyone wants it. But that was the first segment. The second segment was becoming the human crystal. And in the becoming the human crystal, it really felt like psychotherapy, because, I had like, let's say there's more than 4 and maybe 5 in each elemental, right? And so like, we'll spend a month just working in earth. We spend a month just working in fire. We spend a month, in all the elements. And so when I was in fire element, oh my gosh, I had like a rash. I got a physical reaction because I had excess fire in that region. So So, and then, when I was in the wind element, it was torture for me because at that point I had like a pattern blockage between my fire and water. So the wind wasn't able, like the wind was already overactive and it wasn't able to there wasn't a passage for it to ground into the physical realm. So all of these things, they all play together. And then depending on what your elementals are, and some people are very even. Like I've worked on people where they have like all of their elementals are like completely even. And there's a good line of flow going on. That's when the crystals kind of go into, I feel like, more of the cellular, the DNA, the pre-physical consciousness, and that then you go into the deeper. But again, it's so layered, right? We're working with the 3D, we're working with the fascia, the body, the our soul, like the elementals, our human experience and our programming,
what's happening currently right now.
I mean, who we're surrounded by.
It's so much, and it's just listening to you speak about it. It's such a good reminder, right, that we need to be, we're these balanced humans. We're so multi-layered and multifaceted, and we have all these different aspects, and some of them we're stronger in, and some of them we need a little bit more assistance in. And you're talking about the earth element, and it sounds like you've done a really great job of like recognizing this is an area where I need to kind of bolster up and work on so that I can have everything else balanced. And it's just, and I was also thinking about you talking about, it seems like you've had both the very scientific training and explanations of these crystals and the very, if you want to call it mystical, or the other side of it where it really involves your intuition in this energetic realm. And do you find that those two things kind of compete sometimes within your mind, or within?
No, not when I'm working on clients. I literally am just a channel. And I'm there so we can talk about frequency versus amplitude, because when our hearts are in, we've got our electromagnetic frequency that comes from our heart is like thousands times stronger, the magnetism than from our brain. And even the electrical part of it. So electromagnetic frequency. Okay, so we've got that. And basically when you get down to it, I'm not going to get real sciencey or anything, but it's a wave, right? The frequency is a wave. So a lot of times, like, I don't know if you remember, but like it used to be like high vibe, high vibration. Well, high vibration actually is not what we want to achieve, because a high vibration would mean a high wave, which means that more packets of atoms and information is being held on that frequency, which is not a bad thing. But if we really want to make an impact, we want amplitude. So that's where we use the heart frequency to amplify our electromagnetic frequency. And for me, it helped protect me in the sessions, doing that breathing. I'm constantly doing that breathing and amplifying my heart space to become amplified. Otherwise, I would be, I'll just tell you that when I started doing the Primus healing, I'd already been doing heart math, but this was like kind of next level. I mean, I would go home after working on clients and I would just be in fetal position. Like, and I'm not saying that after a long day, I'm not like, I want to be by myself or, all of that. But I noticed a big energy shift for me in terms of protecting my energy field, and being able to help people. That's really what it's about. But you can't help people if you're not helping yourself.
Totally. And so you're talking about amplitude, amplifying your heart, and it's like
it makes the wave more shallow but wider and bigger.
And it's not necessarily like protection, but at the same time it's keeping your field strong and clear. Is that kind of right?
it's keeping your field larger so that if somebody's in a negative state, which we all can be in at
Mm-hmm.
some given point, and that you're not going to get, you'll have a more of a buffer, I'll say.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And with that, do you find that a lot of times, and this is probably a completely different segment, but something that I've noticed working with people is that a lot of times when these clients come and they're bringing these issues, the
Yeah.
things that are coming up to be healed,
Lessons.
lessons, that it's, you know, uh, can be intertwined between something that you're learning as well. Do you find that within your clients? Is like it's coming to you so that you can work with it both on their realm, their field, but also it's like kind of working through something in you at the same time.
Um, I would say that that has happened. Um, I would say that I've been through, not a lot of people know my history, but I've been through quite a bit of trauma. So nowadays it's kind of like the reason why I was like, just wanted to talk about the guru thing from the beginning is because like when I'm with my clients, I share with them my experiences. So it's
Mm.
about alchemizing and just really like listening to what somebody's saying and really listening to what they're saying. And is this, there's a truth to it, but there's also like the fact that you're a manifesting crystal vibration, right?
Mm.
So it's, you know, um, I find that I like, we'll just talk about death, right? So um, I might attract people, and I do attract people who are dealing with healing crisis or um, death. And not to say that I don't attract, people that are birthing things, but I attract people that are ready for a catalyst.
Mm.
And so a lot of times when they're coming, it's like, well, they want a big shift. And so um, yes, they'll come and it'll be something that either I've learned already or maybe they're coming in and it's something like I can think about for myself because we all are learning from each other. Um, and so to answer your question, yes, but a lot of times it's like I feel like I feel like I've lived a very karmic life. And so I've learned a lot and I have so much more to learn about how to be the best person I can be on this planet. But I have a lot of knowledge too.
Yeah, and it's like knowing that, as
Yeah.
practitioners, as healers, if you want to
Yeah.
use that word, we're
Yeah.
we're always learning and
Yeah.
growing just as
Yeah.
everyone else is. And
Yeah.
there might be something that, like you said, we either have maybe just been through, or
Yeah.
it's something that's coming back around, and we get to see, oh, how are we
Yeah.
interpreting, how are we reacting, and then how do we get to help this person?
Yes.
Or you have the aha where it's like, okay, universe, I see you. Like,
Yes.
thank you for bringing me this person so we can work on this together. And
Yes.
yeah, it's like the guru thing. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, at this, we're all humans,
Yeah.
and we're all at different points in our journey working through different things, but at the same time, like, we're here to do it together.
It's kind of like, oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that, and I remember what soothed me.
Hmm.
I remember what words were helpful. Um, and I feel like life is so cyclical that it's like to think that whatever somebody's going through that it won't show up again for you in your lifetime, you know.
Yeah.
So it's you know, yeah, it's and also it's yeah, like what I can say that like having overcome like really big beliefs that I was programmed to believe at a young early age, like does it's still like it you'll maybe notice it, but it's not as triggering as it used to be.
Yeah.
And so it's just about like how strong is the tea,
Yeah.
You know, how many times have you dunked that subject matter in the tea, and you know, how strong is it for you?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where we're all able to help each other, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think right now what I'm working on is like recognizing that I get to either be frustrated that it's coming back around, or I get to be proud of myself that I'm not reacting as strongly as I did before. And that at the same time, I called it in to be able to be like, oh, like as soon as I work with this, then I'm gonna, how do I want to say this? It's like open more light. I'm gonna invite more light into my being, because now I'm at a different place. It might be a spiral. It's always gonna come back around, but it's like by working through those issues, and I'm gonna learn, grow, and then elevate myself to a new place where I have a newfound perspective, and then you're greater service to the world at large, right?
Yeah, and just as you were saying, and you used your finger to use the like a wheel motion, what came to mind was that, you know, we're talking about the 3D reality, we're talking about our soul, our, you know, and this is a multiverse, and we're multidimensional beings. And the fact that we have incarnated on the earth in this lifetime in this vessel, to learn and to, like, it's the highest education our soul could have is here. And that our soul is not just bound to our physical 3D body, that there's a lot that we can't see or tap into, but that wheel, that motion of what you're talking about is, you can think of your pre-physical consciousness as being like the hub of a wheel, and then all your physical bodies that you're running are like the spokes. And so, like, you know, you you might be going around through your soul knowledge in this vessel, in this timeline, but it's connected to something beyond. And that's a very, like, we're all just trying to make it here in this lifetime in this body.
Yeah.
And that's a real far-fetched, but if you really want to go deep down the rabbit hole, that's, I mean, our we have a soul.
Yeah.
And it's connected to much more than we even can conceive.
Well, and sometimes zooming out and having that higher perspective kind of helps us come back down to realize, like, one, we don't have to take everything so seriously, and two, it's like we're not just doing this for this meaningless, mindless experience, right? It's like we are all doing it together, and you know, ideally, it helps the greater collective and the creator. But it's like, I don't know. Sometimes when I can really take a second and be like, okay, I don't need to be completely immersed in this thing, and you start to understand all the aspects at play, and you start to zoom out wider and wider and wider, and you realize that that person that's walking down the road that you've judged, or that is doing that thing that you would never do, is like actually going through their own karmic lessons, their own journey, their own thing that they're working through. They just maybe are in it and they haven't taken a second to zoom out yet. And it's just knowing that, like, we're not separate. I think it's a valuable thing to do every once in a while.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Anita Morijani, I had the honor of seeing her speak in 2019 and in New Mexico, with a huge panel of amazing speakers. And I'd never seen her or heard of her before at that point. And she says that it's like a fabric, that our souls are woven together through this fabric, and we are only seeing the thread that we're in. And when you zoom out, you can see the whole tapestry of what's really going on. So we have no idea what, you know, like, that's the beauty of being here. You know, so we just don't know what, you know, we all get those wonderful, beautiful surprises that come in out of nowhere. And yeah, so.
Yeah, I'm sure familiar with like Richard Rudd's work, but Gene Keys.
Oh,
you know,
not much.
Okay, well, long story short, there's, you know, that's a whole another rabbit hole, but he has a course called the Dream Arc, and it takes all of these different animals, and essentially he has studied them deeply and worked with each one of them as a consciousness, as an energy, and he's connected them to each one of your gene keys. And that's a, you know, you can kind of look at it from your profile or just look at what's at play in life. But he uses the spider as like one of the main guardians for everyone, for the whole collective, because the spider is the one that's weaving the web that we're a part of. It's the dream weaver. It's like the kind of mystical tapestry of life that is going on in the background that like we just can't see. And it's just so interesting how many different ways that you can live your life depending on what perspective you have and where you're putting your focus and your attention into.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at the questions that I have for you, and one of the things that I wanted to kind of come back to was, I know that you and I have spoken about working with one specific crystal over long periods of time, and you mentioned, you know, going through different elements, but how have you experienced working with like one singular energy for, say, a specific time in your life? And I know there's a lot of misconceptions about like the way that people can work with crystals, but
Sure.
you and I both have had these overarching like aha moments when you're working with these crystals, and when we're talking about those specific times when maybe you need more than just that daily prescription. You have that one thing that you're really trying to work with and you've committed to it, and now you've selected the crystal that's going to help you in that.
Okay, there's again a lot of layers to this, because there's different ways, of course, to work with crystals. You know, meditating with one crystal. And yeah, there was a while when I got out of the program where it was when crystals were at the height and people were just wearing all these, like, you know, crystal bracelets, all the different ones. And I would have, you know, people show up with like all these crystal necklaces on, and, you know, different frequencies, and I would have them remove them. And you know, some people feel naked without the crystals, and I would tell them, like, you know, we're gonna fortify your human crystal so that these, you know, these are, you know, it's fun to adorn yourself with the crystals. I have tons of crystal jewelry, but we shouldn't have to need them. And that this isn't going to, I'm going to go to your question, but just going deeper, is that a lot of times when I'm working on clients, I will see a third eye projection or a picture of a crystal that I've never worked with. And I will be channeling it from the crystal grid. So I will take that picture and I will, with my intention and my breath, pull it up, that frequency from the crystal grid, and channel it into my client. And then I'll go to the crystal store, or I'll look for it and I will find the crystal that I saw. So do we actually need crystals in the physical? No, because they're a frequency. So, and I've done it before when, with my past relationship, he had pain in his elbow, and we were at a restaurant. He's like, do your stuff. And, you know, and I channeled malachite, you know, and it helped him, and I could feel the frequency really strong. So, but to answer your question, you know, we can meditate with, I always like, you know, crystal detox is a good thing, because they are frequencies. So if you're needing more clarity, then maybe, you know, cleanse yourself of all the crystals so that you can get clarity. And then working with one crystal in meditation, we had to go through like a crystal awakening meditation that would, like, you know, awaken the being in the stone. There's also, like, you know, elemental spirits. But, you know, really, you'll get messages from the crystal. It might be an idea, it might be a feeling, it might be some action. When you're working with a crystal in meditation, for me, when I was teaching on rhodonite, I was very surprised because I was um, working on the course for that, or that I taught that 1 month at the studio, and I worked with it for 2 weeks solely. Um, and I was so surprised because every single definition that you get from a crystal has been channeled by someone else. So when I did my coursework and I had to do definitions, because we had to do um, charting for our, I don't want to call them patients, but clients, and that we worked with for over 9 months. And we had to do comparative analysis and like how the move energy would actually move. And it's quite interesting because the crystal would like move here, the same crystal. And I don't remember what I used on them the month before. And so it was very interesting. And to see how it would move on the body, it would move down in this elemental region, then it would go back up here, then it would go back down, then it would stay here, then it would elevate into a different element. So um, I'm losing my track of thought now, but there's so much. But basically, I was so surprised when I was working with this stone with the rhodonite because um, it spoke to me, and I people that I hadn't thought about in months and years came up that I had to forgive them. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even know that I needed to forgive them. But it came up while I was working with rhodonite, which is supposed to be like the heart, um, counselor. And so I was just very humbled by working with that one stone for 2 weeks. And it really, there was so much more that came through work just meditating with that one stone. So how you choose a stone, I mean, really just get clear. And I walk people through. I have a big wall of, I don't know how many stones, and those are my client stones. I say I don't work with those stones personally. Those are just the ones I channel. So if you don't know what stone to work with, you can just close your eyes, ground yourself, connect to the galactic center or the light, and just get into your heart and just ask, what do you need? What do you need? What do I need? What do I need? And when you open your eyes, it'll be the first crystal that you need to touch, or the first one that you see. And that's the crystal that you can work with, because you're attracted to it in some way, shape, or form. I've worked with crystals going into the pre-physical consciousness, going into the filters within our pre-physical consciousness. One of the meditations that I've shared with a few people, but I'm leading up to sharing it with more now, doing the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show retreat next week. So I'm going to be sharing it with that group. But that's a meditation where we go, we travel into our cell, into our DNA strand, into the pre-physical consciousness, and then we just notice what filters or experiences are there. And then we use the crystal as like a marker, or place like, a frequency band that kind of helps us shift something in our pre-physical consciousness, which is our soul's Akashic records. So that's a very deep way of working with crystals. Who's to say that you're not doing that in meditation? You do need to actually visually go to your DNA. I would say no, because you're a human crystal. So I think that there's many ways to work with crystals.
Yeah. And I love that there's like so many more like mystical, esoteric applications, and then there's so many like practical applications. Like you're even speaking about the emotional aspect, right? When you had these people come up into your subconscious that you needed to forgive, and so for somebody who maybe is a little bit less familiar with this crystal world, where would you start guiding them to go so they don't get overwhelmed?
Yeah, I would just, I mean, some people are very cautious with crystals, I'd say. I've met a lot of people who are very, very cautious with crystals, and I really, really revere that in them. And then there's people who are all in, you know.
Why do you think that is?
Um, I think that they know their medicine.
Mm.
I mean, they're food for our soul, and so I think they're smart to, and I think that, this happened to me the first time I went to Tucson Gem and Mineral Show. Is I had a panic attack there. I literally had a panic attack at the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show. Wow. Because of the ethics of how crystals are being mined. And I had a full-on breakdown. It was like seeing, like, after you've meditated for like 1,000 hours with crystals, and then you go and they're like limbs, right? Just like cut up limbs. You're just, I just had such a deep, profound experience with crystals. And then the first year I went, and I booked a call with my teacher because I was so distraught about it. And I mean, I don't get panic attacks, so I think that was probably the second one I've ever had, in my life. And so she's been around a long time. She studied for 25 years and created this program. So I really value her knowledge and her wisdom. And she's just said, you know what, Janna, like, these people, they do this for work. Mm-hmm. This is their line of work. This is what they do. And also, these crystals are being unearthed for a reason, for the, and I'll preface that I know when I go to the Tucson Gem Member Show, there are vendors that know me. So I know the woman who mines the Herkimer diamonds. I know the man from Pakistan that, like, carves these certain stones. So I know people there.
Yeah.
And the man from India that I bought a collection from, that his stones were just immaculate. And these are people that you recognize their faces year after year. And in terms of the ethics, so I think people are, they can maybe feel that they have a sensitivity towards the ethics of how the crystals are being mined. And I really believe that that's true. And at the same time, I said that dioptese was the crystal of 2025. And dioptese is rich in copper, and it's mined in the Congo. And the Congo and that stone is for grief. And so if you think about where these stones are being mined and why they have these properties to them to help the consciousness of the planet with these really heavy things that are happening on the earth, there's a connection to where these crystals are being mined, what's happening on the earth, in those areas. And like the man that I bought that crystal from, I saw many people at that show that year. Like, every year you go to the show, there's a different crystal that's like everyone has it. It's like been unearthed. And there were so many that were selling dioptese, and I looked for the man with the kind eyes, and he was so beautiful, and I just knew that he could not be part of anything unethical.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just discernment, so I think people have discernment with crystals. So where to begin is for people, like, I think the crystals call you.
They do. Yeah, it's so funny because I talked about in the beginning, my journey with crystals, briefly. Just a friend of mine that I had a really good relationship with. We had a crew of people that would always go to these music festivals, and he was just like somebody that I kind of connected to as a soul brother. And then all of a sudden life happened, and a couple of years went by, and he was like kind of like one of those guys who just like disappeared and no one knew what would happen to him or what happened to him. But one day I get a literally a gift in the mail for Christmas, and it was like him. It pretty much left me a note that saying I've been working with this guy as my mentor, and he's been helping me work with crystals and understand all the properties. And he's like, I told him about you, and this is the one that he recommended, and it was danbarite.
Oh, wow.
And I now know that danbarite's like a very high vibrational stone.
Yes.
It's like part of the Synergy 12. It's, it's like
Yes.
for more like angelic communication. I mean, you probably know way more than I do, but I saw the word communication and I was like, yes, this is going to be great. And I don't know exactly how it worked with me, but I wore that necklace every day for like 5 years.
I think when we met, you were wearing it.
I might have been. I think I had my big piece of it's the lithium one that's going to drive me.
Oh, kunzite.
Yeah, my kunzite. I think I had that one on. But regardless, I was like, it was one of those times in my life where I was really awakening myself to work with people in the community. Like I was a restaurant server, but it was like all these little areas where I was being guided to open up my voice. And I don't even know that that's what the stone typically helps you with, but that was the intention that I had put into it. And so I knew every single time I put that necklace on, it was helping me with my communication. And I saw it get better and better. And of course, back then I would consider myself not to be super sensitive or attuned to things, even though I very much was and just didn't really know it. But, the couple years went by, I learned more, acquired more crystals. I was definitely one of the people who had a ton on me at once and then went way down the rabbit hole. But now it's like I'm so sensitive that if I have two in my pocket, I'm like feeling the energy of how they clash. I'm like, I notice, okay, I'm going to work with specific ones, but I'm like really sensitive to the energies now. And so I think you talk about that discernment and the energies behind it, where they were mined, and there's so much happening beyond, like behind the scenes. But I think it was when I started working with Moldavite that I think I was really feeling that one, as most people do, and then all of a sudden it's like,
how do you not feel Moldavite?
Exactly. It's like one of the, they talk about, for anyone who doesn't know Moldavite, it's like the one that they say that can turn your life upside down if you're not.
It's a storm element.
Yeah.
So storm element is all elements in one, which is, it's not really an element, it's more an action. And so it's a storm element stone is for transformation and change. So you have to be ready for it.
Yeah, and I don't think that I think from the first time I picked it up, I thought, oh, this is cool. And then I thought, wow, I'm feeling something. My hand's tingling. Like, what's happening here? And I think somehow I ended up, my dad gave it to me and I was like working with it for months. And then all of a sudden I moved to a different country. It was like, oh, the series of events happened and then had no idea. And then like a year later, somehow it came back around to me throughout the whole thing. And throughout this entire process where I'm getting to, it's like now it's not just the tektites or the super high vibrational stones that I can feel. It's like I'm really sensitive. When I go to a crystal shop, I walk in and I'm like, whoa, there's a lot of energy here. I don't necessarily know what it is or how it's working with me, but I'd love to hear your perspective on.
Well, this is why I'm leading a retreat to Tucson Gem and Mineral Show, because of the experience that I had the first year I went. It can be really overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I felt that way the first time I went to. There used to be, there still is, the New Living Expo is a big trade. It used to be massive, like massive conscious trade show in the city. It's now much, much smaller. But I remember the first time I went to that show, it's just, it's a lot of, it's a lot of information. So you're, I forgot how many bits of information a human takes in every day, but that's why I like the cleansing auric grid, because we're just constantly taking in a lot of information. So then you add to that all of these frequency bands and all the human crystals that are running, you know, that are in the store and like whatever. So like when I'm doing home attunements or blessings, they have to leave the house, because I can't pick up on the subtle energies of the home if the human crystals are in the house too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's just important to just be really grounded when you go in, and just, I would say just, you know, if you're in that amplified state, then you'll have a buffer.
Yeah, and it was like for so long, I think that was a state that I craved. I was like, wanted to be amplified. I wanted to be high. I very much used to work a lot with psychedelics and have opened my mind and my field to, a lot of things, and really discovered what I think a glimpse of the core of who I was. But I always knew that I could get to that place without any substances, without psychedelics, and then that was kind of the journey that eventually led me to simultaneously working with crystals. And I'm like, I found something I can get naturally high. It's like, if it's not me working with cacao or with something else, it's like a natural substance. It was like crystals, like, and I think now the thing that I value the most is complete grounded clarity, and just this sense of like the people that I'm attracted to the most are the ones that are the most embodied, the most present, the most here.
Yeah.
And I think now, as I start to know and learn more about crystals, those are the crystals that I'm most attracted to, is the ones that are going to ground me in my body the most. Because, the ones that can really help me invite all the light that I have back down into this physical realm, because it's where I need it the most right now.
I mean, touche. Everybody needs that right now. We're in the age of Aquarius, which is the age of information, which is, an air, wind element. So I think that, yeah, we all need to embody our, to embodiment has been a big word for me this year. I think we all need that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I could sit and talk to you for literally forever, and this would probably keep going.
Yeah.
But I would love to, now that we're talking about this year, what do you see, what are you most excited about? Or what do you have coming? Like, do you have any sort of, I keep asking people this, but it's like, are you planning for this year? Or are you kind of just open to see what happens? And
I definitely made some changes in my life, created more space so that I could, step into all of the things that I've been practicing for a long, long time, more fully and more embodied. As in terms of this year, I think that, you know, I just literally went to FedEx Kinko's this morning and printed out all of my coursework that I did, because I don't want to be on my computer. I want to be able to read it. And I was sitting out on my deck, in the redwoods, reading instead of being on my computer. So technology is a huge part of our life now, and it's an asset, and it's a gift. But I think that in 2026, we definitely need more grounding and more balance. We're here on Earth for to be here. So for me, the things that I'm excited about is just seeing where these teachings can go, because I've been processing them so close to my heart. And so I feel like teaching to the corporate groups, I get so many people who've never even worked with a crystal. So I feel like that's a big ripple. The next, I don't quite know how to get the work that I do with the large scale grids, which is a whole nother podcast, but the large scale grids are from another work, a woman's work from like the teachers that I've had, there's three in particular, but this book is a book that I've been studying for almost probably like 7 or 8 years. I've been studying a book on large scale grids, and I've been experimenting with them. And when I say large scale, I mean like geometry, sacred geometry with the quartz in a very specific way so that it generates like almost like a vortex or a portal. So that's work that I've been doing for a long time. And I actually have a menu that I have how that's going to translate into the 3D physical reality and how I bring that in this year in a bigger way. I don't know, because I would love to share that technology. It's fun to build them with groups. And so I'd like to share that more. Like I can feel my heart like beating with excitement, even just talking about it, because it's like I get giddy when I start to do those large scale grids. And I've done a lot in Mount Shasta. I had a friend who just asked me if I would bring the quartz up there and build one with her on the mountain, and I was like, of course. And I didn't even realize how much I needed to be in that grid. It was like you just feel, I don't know, you get transported. You get transported through your body somewhere else. It's definitely like a vortex or a portal. So I'm excited about how that's going to show up this year.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it comes out. And it's like when you discover how it's gonna land, let me know where and when, and I would love to come experience that. I mean, just being in Mount Shasta alone for a day and a half, I really felt like, wow, there's something happening here. But to add those extra dimensions to it, I just can't even imagine.
Well, we did a grid by the lighthouse in 2021, and we made contact with galactic beings.
Wow.
And so those quartz hold that frequency. There was 3 of us there. We saw the light or the arc, this arc come over us. All 3 of us saw it. So it happened.
Wow.
And then I had him in my car, and then another contact happened because I heard the sound, the zzz, and so I basically, like, I didn't have my contacts on because I was camping, so I took a picture, and there was this giant orb outside of my car. And long story short, I had a dream about the grandmothers. I woke up crying, and it was a message. And then I met a woman who was a Stargate keeper, who I just asked, can you look at this picture? And she said, oh, that was the Palladian grandmothers. And so these quartz were holding that frequency of that first contact. And I followed Stephen Greer's, like, I've never worked with him directly, but I followed his protocol, of which I've been pretty accurate with remote viewing. So I followed his protocol with that first one, and then they sensed the frequency that evening when I had them in the car with me. Wow. So it goes beyond it's how we work with these crystals can go way beyond our wildest anything we could ever think of.
Yeah.
So
imagination is just like blown out of the water, right?
Yeah. So
yeah, and it's just so cool that, like, again, I'm coming back to this concept, like, there's so many different ways to live life. There's so many different ways to be you. There's so many different ways in which you can interact with this realm and all the other ones in this place we call home and earth. And it's just like, I'm never surprised anymore. And at the same time, I always am. And that's like the beauty of being here in this time right now, right? It's just like finding people like you, having these really otherworldly experiences, and then myself getting to experience, my share as well. And it's just...
She actually told me to meditate with Dan Bright. So that's quite interesting.
Was that recently, or?
That was 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a special one. Every time I pick it up now, I'm just like, whoa, okay, I'm going to have to adjust to this for a minute.
I worked with it so long ago, before I even took my coursework. I was attracted to it, and I can't even tell you what my experience was because it was so long ago. But I have a fond. I love Damberite. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful stone.
Yeah. I look at how my life changed after using it, you know, and it's just like I moved to so many different places, met so many different people, and was just like fully me in a way that I'd never quite imagined, and in a way that I was like, whoa, okay, I can create my own reality. I get to live and express myself in a way that was, you know, beyond my limits beforehand, and it's really cool to see that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how much was happening behind the scenes that I wasn't even conscious of, but I was guided and definitely helped out. I'll say
It was
that
your
way.
ally. Yeah.
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 Yeah, it was.
Ally for transformation in the 3D realm. Yeah.
Yeah, well, here's to more transformation. We'll see what happens this year. And if people want to learn more, I feel like we covered a lot of ground. And if people want to like dive into crystals in a way that's beyond just the norm, and they want to work with you, maybe have a session, like what's the best way to find you? And
my website, it's Janna J Bowman, so JANNA JBOWMAN.com.
Beautiful. And are you active on Instagram or socials or anything like that?
Yes, Instagram is the same, Janna. I think it's _ Bowman is my handle.
Yeah, and I'll put it in the show notes so people can kind of find it. And and do you do like remote sessions, long distance, or is it all in person?
No, I do a lot. I have done quite a few remote sessions. I just did one last month, and it was, the feedback was really on point with what was happening. So yeah,
beautiful.
There's a menu for that up there.
Yeah, there's, you know, you don't have to be local to Santa Cruz to work with you, and there's just so much that you can uncover and be able to unearth, so your life goes a little bit more less sticky, right? Less constricted, and be able to live in a more
actually
state.
In my when I went through my big life change in my late 20s, early 30s, I had been working with a remote. Back then, we didn't call them remote healers. I didn't even know what that, didn't have a name back then, but I didn't know that there was a name for it, but I could feel her working in my chakras. And she did a lot of guided visualization with me through that process. And I think that kind of set the stage for the work that I do now. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I'll stay tuned. We'll all stay tuned to see where you go and what happens. And I'm sure I'll have you on again so we can have another beautiful chat and see what happens. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Of course.
I loved our conversation.
It always just goes in the way that it's meant to. And I feel like every time we have this interaction, it's just like, okay, I'm going to need to sit down for this.
It's so juicy.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Awesome. Well, I hope everyone got a lot out of this. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Wasn't that fun learning about crystals in maybe a new way, maybe a different perspective that you didn't have before? I just love talking to Janna. She's such a wealth of knowledge and really, really expands my awareness around my body, my life, and around the crystals that I am working with. So cool. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, if you liked this episode, please, I invite you to leave a rating, leave a review, a comment, share it with a friend, donate if you can, anything that you can to help bring a little bit more awareness to the podcast. It really helps me out, really helps us out, and that way I can keep going with this amazing platform to bring to everyone the knowledge and the collaboration that really deserves to be heard. So thank you so much for your support, and I will see you in the next episode.